and Bird Brains out on the Battle Donkey today, and today I'm going to be answering the question, which do I prefer, dirt riding or street riding? Let's get into it. Oh guys, it feels good to be out on the street. I know you guys are probably thinking, thank God he's not uploading another dirt bike video. Honestly, like 90% of the reason I came out today is because I knew that if I uploaded 4 dirt bike videos in a row, you guys would burn me at the cross. But it's 91 degrees, so it's not too terribly hot. Granted, it is only noon, but we're expected to get to like the 105-ish range today. But that's really the #1 reason why I haven't been riding on the street, is just because you really have a very, very, very small window to get out and ride with it not being just ungodly hot. I mean, you're thinking 105 is the heat index, but that's air temperature. I mean, when you factor in the heat coming off the road, I mean, it's substantially hotter. I remember the other day when me and Misper were coming back from a ride. I think it was it was that group ride we went to Cooper's. I was watching my air temp here on the gauge, and from the country back roads that we were on to the interstate, there was like a 10-degree temperature difference. It was 10 degrees hotter on the interstate. So that's really a main reason why I've been doing a lot more dirt riding. Granted, you're not moving as fast, so you're not getting as much air, but you're usually under tree cover, and plus you don't have the asphalt and everything. Like the motor doesn't get nearly as hot on a dirt bike as it does on a street bike. But enough of me bitching, let's go ahead and answer the question. So I feel like the best way to answer this was to kind of go through both styles and kind of highlight what I like and what I don't like about each style of riding. So with the dirt bike taking up most of the attention the last couple of weeks, let's go ahead and start with street riding, and we'll go ahead and start with the pros. Also, I've got no notes on this topic. This is me just completely off the top of my head, so I probably will miss some stuff, and future Justin might have to interject here and there, but we'll get it done. So starting off with the pros, I think one thing I like a lot about street riding is it allows you to turn the mundane task of just going places into something fun. Instead of just, hopping in the car, hopping in the truck, and going to XYZ place, you get to turn it into kind of an experience. One of the things I love most about street riding is the different feelings. So, of course, you're feeling the heat, you're feeling the wind, you are smelling all the smells. Heck, you can even taste some of the smells sometimes. But it's just a completely different experience from taking those same roads in some sort of, closed vehicle. I know I make fun of Jeeps a lot because I think they're overpriced and they drive like ass, but I can kind of get where those guys are coming from. Having the ability to pretty much strip down your vehicle to the bare bones, they're getting a lot of those different feelings that us motorcyclists feel. They can, stick their legs out on those stupid pegs they have and feel the wind go up their plaid shorts. They can, take the top off and get a nice farmer's tan. And of course, with all that wind coming in, you're getting all the smells of all the different places you're going. So kind of that same experience, but I just like it more on a motorcycle. And of course, one thing people always bring up is the freedom of the open road and just taking off and going where you want to. And yeah, I'm gonna have to touch on this. I will touch on it a lot more later, but it is nice. Like, for example, if I had to go to, the other side of town, I'd much rather take the bike just because I have the freedom to squeeze in between cars where my car or truck might not fit. I can get through parking lots easier. It's definitely a different feeling than being inside of a motor vehicle. And another big thing that I love about street riding, specifically just for me personally, is the people that I've met through it. Now, I will have to admit that a lot of those people came because of the channel and not so much me riding a motorcycle, because I'm super antisocial and probably would not have met any of those people without the channel. But I wouldn't have had the channel if it wasn't for the bike. So I owe a lot to street riding, just based off of my friends, most of who I consider family at this point. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people are attracted to, is that brotherhood mentality, that, you know, everybody that's on twos is kind of experiencing the same thing, you know, the whole chunking the fingers and the biker wave, and you feel like you're a part of something. Now, I don't really, I mean, that's just an added bonus to me. That's not something that I would say attracts me to it, but the community around it are 9 times out of 10 good people. So let's go ahead and focus on some of the cons of street riding. I think one of the main ones is that it's pretty dangerous. I mean, you can of course ride safer and try to lessen your risks to as little as possible, but at the end of the day, you're still going down public highways with you know, nothing protecting you. So while it has its, you know, freedom benefits, you're also sacrificing a lot of your safety. There's a saying within the community, I'm sure if you ride bikes, you've heard it before, it's not a matter of if you're going to go down, but when. And that's, I mean, that gets a lot of people. I think that's one of the big, I'd say it's probably the biggest driving factor away from street bikes, is that, you know, you hear on the news every other day, at least in San Antonio do, of a motorcyclist that was either doing something stupid and ended up killing himself or herself, or more times than not, probably it's getting hit, you know, at an intersection or something like that. And that's the shitty part, is, like I said, you can try to mitigate your risks, but say, for example, if you're just going through a green light and all of a sudden someone, you know, sideswipes you at 70 miles an hour, there's not much you can do about that. Moving on to my next point, which is kind of funny because it kind of ties into some of the pros that I talked about, but you are open to all of the elements. You are exposed to the sun, the wind, the rain, the snow. You're experiencing everything just as if you were outside, but going very fast. So that, of course, is going to limit, well, let me rephrase that. It should limit what you wear, how you dress, things like that. For example, like right now, I'm pretty casual. I'm in jeans, a t-shirt, and just high top shoes, which is just more of my riding around the town. I wouldn't be, you know, crossing the state wearing this. But if I was, I'd have, you know, jacket, thicker jeans, riding shoes, gloves, and of course, the most uncomfortable part is the helmet. Now, I realize that a lot of the things I'm saying are going to transfer over to dirt as well, but I just felt like these are some things that need to be pointed out. These are the things I think about most of what I don't like about riding on the street, if that makes sense. Another big con for me is going to be not being able to ride how you want to ride. There's so many restrictions on the street. You've got, you know, I have to stay in between these two lines. I have to go this certain speed. Now, granted, I don't have to, but, you know, if I want to stay within the law, I have to do those things, which for a lot of people probably isn't going to be a huge deal, but I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. And then I guess last but not least, it's just going to be the cost of riding. Now, of course, not everyone's going to go out and buy a $30,000 Harley, but even if you're looking at entry level, you're still way over the cost of entry level for dirt. Not to mention, you're also having to tack on insurance, registration, taxes in some states. So, I mean, for example, if you take $3,000 to go buy a dirt bike or $3,000 to go buy a street bike, the quality of machine that you're going to be getting for said riding style is going to be vastly different. Man, look at all that dirt. Speaking of dirt, let's go ahead and look at some pros and cons of the dirt. Now, I will admit that I am slightly biased towards the dirt just because that's what I grew up riding. I've been riding dirt far longer than I've been riding street. And some of the things that I personally like about dirt riding is really going to be just a lot of the opposites of some of the cons I pointed out on the street riding. Going back to the, you know, feeling of freedom. When you're on a street bike, like I said, you're restricted to that lane, or, I mean, if you even take the laws out of it, you're still somewhat restricted to the highways, the roads. And don't get me wrong, I mean, here in the United States, you can get pretty much anywhere on roads of some sort. Maybe not paved roads, but I would say you'd be able to see a good chunk of the United States from either an interstate or a highway of some sort. But when you're on a dirt bike or a dual sport or something of that nature, really, I mean, it's of course better to stay on the trails and kind of on the beaten path, but I mean, aside from property lines and fences, there's really nothing keeping you from going wherever the hell you want to go on those things. I mean, it is the ultimate, you know, adventure vehicle. And then, of course, kind of tying into that is just the ability to ride how you want. Hi, puppy. If you know, want to go just cruise through the trails, you can do that. If you want to go hit a track and go literally balls to the wall the entire time, you can do that. Also, if you are that kind of person that likes to go balls to the wall, it takes a lot of strength and energy and talent to ride like that. So it's also a health benefit as far as it being a workout to ride. Cruising this thing around, I mean, yeah, it's a heavy bike, but I mean, once you get it above, you know, 15 miles an hour, it pretty much rides itself. There's very little input that I have to do to keep this thing going. A dirt bike, on the other hand, you're having to give it input pretty much just to stay upright 90% of the time. Oh, hey dear, how's it going? Going back to one of the cons on my list is price. Dirt bikes are a lot cheaper than street bikes, and that's both upfront cost as well as long-term cost. Now, of course, the depending on what bike you get, the maintenance might be a little bit more tedious for especially like the race bikes and things like that. For example, my bike it's recommended I change the oil every 10 hours of riding, or 10 or 12 hours of riding, as opposed to, you know, a Harley, you can get 5,000 miles. Some bikes even get more than that, 7,500, 8,000 miles. Now, of course, the certs are going to be a bit more expensive, especially for Harleys, but it's still the, you know, the time factor, and especially if you're not mechanically inclined enough to do it yourself, that's time to take it into the dealership as well as money to pay the dealership to do it. But I think, I mean, I've never sat down and worked out the math, but I'd be willing to bet a large chunk of money that says the long-term ownership of a dirt bike versus a street bike is going to be much cheaper. Going back to my earlier example, $3,000 is going to get you a whole lot more for dirt riding than it is for street riding. I mean, even in a higher priced market such as San Antonio, we stay anywhere between like 50% to 75% above NADA values for dirt bikes, so that's just something we have to deal with. But even with that being said, I was able to get a 2013 pretty nice bike along with all of my gear and everything I needed for under $4,000. Now take that $4,000 and go try to buy not only, you know, all your street gear, but also a street legal motorcycle. Is it doable? Absolutely. But like I said, the quality of what you're getting is going to be vastly different. So on to some of the cons of dirt riding. Depending on what type of rider you are, some of my pros might have actually been cons for you. For example, having to, you know, give the bike input 95% of the time to keep it going, that might not be something that you like to do. But some cons for me personally are kind of focused around convenience. For example, I wanted to ride this bike today, so I just hopped on and went to go ride this bike. I didn't have to, you know, load up the truck and load up the trailer, or, you know, get the tie downs out, get the ramps out, none of that. I just, oh shit, speed bump. I just put on my helmet, put on my gloves, and went out to ride. Now, if you've got a dual sport or a supermoto or something like that, you can of course do that, something that's street legal, but I'm talking real dirt bikes, not street legal, strictly for the dirt. It's kind of a pain in the ass. You know, get out there, first off, get out there early so it's not stupid freaking hot, but you gotta load up the truck, get the ramp out, put the bike in the truck, strap it down, get your ice chest, make sure you get water, stop and get ice. It's a process, but once you get to where you're going, all of the pros I just mentioned are going to then take effect. And then I guess one more con that, I mean, it's kind of a con, kind of a pro. It was one of the things I had to talk to the guys about a lot when they were looking at getting their dirt bikes, and one in particular was having a difficult time convincing his wife to let him get a dirt bike, and one of her big complaints was because it was dangerous. And to that I kind of have to bring up the street bike thing. Is it really that much more dangerous? So I think the best way to describe it is you're more likely to have a minor outpatient visit to some sort of medical facility on a dirt bike. I'm talking cuts, sprains, lacerations, broken bones, all that kind of stuff, than you are on a street bike. I think most people would agree with that. But when you're talking about hospitable injuries, stuff that you are in the hospital for a day or more, much greater on street bikes. I mean, you really have to be sending the shit out of it to do something so bad that you end up in the hospital for real on a dirt bike. Now, the occurrences of that are going to be less, or at least I would hope they would be less, but I would bet good money to say that 1 3-night hospital stay is going to be cheaper than a good chunk of med clinic visits. So I guess I will actually try to answer the question now, and it really is hard, guys, because I've had so many great memories riding both styles. I mean, you guys have seen most of them. I would say 90% of them. The Big Bend trip, that's something I'm going to remember the rest of my life. The Arkansas trip, that's going to be something I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. But not only do I have a lot of great memories pre-GoPro even, before GoPros were even a thing, but I'm just excited for the future memories that we're going to be creating with my new group of friends. And by new group, I mean the OG crew. But also, I mean, if I'm thinking about it that way, also, what type of people am I going to meet within this dirt community? I mean, you guys are going to see one of our buddies we've already met coming up in one of the future videos. The guy is one of the nicest guys I ever met, and that was literally just within the first week of being back in the dirt family, so to speak. And I mean, we really haven't gone to any major, track or event or anything of that nature to really have the chance to meet somebody. So to be a total cop-out on this, I'm going to answer this question in 2 different ways. Question 1, which one do I like to do more? And the answer to that is going to be dirt riding. I just have, I wouldn't say a lot more fun, it's just a different kind of fun that I enjoy more on the dirt than I do on the street. I like being able to, push my riding limits a little bit further without the consequences of death. But if you asked me if I had to give up one style for the rest of my life, which one would I pick? I'd have to give up dirt. I'd have to keep street around just because of the longevity of it. I can ride a bike like this until my legs really don't work anymore. And even then, I can hop on something like you're seeing up ahead of me, like a trike, like a Can-Am or something like that. Street riding is going to be a lot more easy on the body and a lot more, accessible to the elders, I should say. As you get older in age, street riding is going to be a whole lot easier. I don't really realistically see myself riding dirt past 35, 40. At least not to the extent that I want to. Why are you putting your feet down? Why are your feet still down? Oh man, I was about to be a dick in lane split. I'm glad I did. There's a cop right there. My god, that bike is obnoxiously loud. I think it's just the tone of it, but it's like vibrating my helmet. It's so loud. So there you have it, guys. My answer to the all-important question. I don't plan on getting rid of the Harleys anytime soon. I don't plan on getting rid of the dirt bikes anytime soon. I know a lot of people were pretty upset over the first dirt bike video. Even had one guy comment, he said, how are you such a great street rider but such a shitty dirt rider? I was like, oh man, that's so nice. It's the best backhanded compliment I've ever received. But you guys have to understand, I was on a bike for the first time in a location, well, first time in 11 years, I should say, in a location I've been on for the first time, following a rider riding his bike for the first time. So I was not going to go out there and pin it and anything like that. I mean, I never claimed to be an excellent rider in the first place. I don't know why you guys expected me to hop out and be Ricky Carmichael or something like that. I'm decent. I'm a lot better than what you've seen, but I'm nowhere near great. But the way I feel like I'm covering it is very unique and cool, because not only are you going to get to see my experience getting back into dirt with the experience, but you're also getting to see some of the OGs go from Harleys to dirt with zero dirt experience. So hopefully I'll be able to document that as much as I can to kind of give you guys a better idea in case maybe you're considering kind of dipping your toes into the other side. Other than that, guys, that's going to do it for today's episode. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you haven't already, go ahead and punch that subscribe button. And as always, thank you for watching. See you guys next time.